What's going on, everybody? Welcome into Blazers Uprise live here on a Monday. Eric, I'm in vacation mode, bro. Summer League's done, and I'm moving on to vacation mode. I got the sunglasses on, I got the hair cut, I got the collared shirt, I got the beach picture bottom left.
This is your vacation mode?
This is my vacation mode, bro. This is my vacation mode. So,
where are you going?
Here.
No,
I gotta make this room a vacation somehow. So, I'm just kind of embracing the vibe a little bit. But today,
I didn't get the memo. Sorry.
Yeah, well, you go on actual vacations. This is what I got. So, today though, we're gonna talk about Summer League. We're gonna recap that. We're gonna talk about Donovan Clingan. He made an All-NBA team, well, for Summer League, but Eric, we're back getting accolades now because we got Kling Kong making all-second team for Summer League. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about Summer League, at least in regards to the notable players that are on the roster or on two ways. We're going to talk about some of the big free agent names that are left at this point in the month. Like, free agency has been weird. You still got some pretty decent players left on the market. We'll talk about where we think those guys might go. We're also going to grade the offseason as if it's over, because Eric, it might be over. As I said, I'm in vacation mode, so we're going to give our offseason grade, and we're going to look ahead to what's next for your Portland Trail Blazers. Should be a pretty chill, pretty light stream for today. And with that being said, Eric, how's it going?
Mute that bozo says you look like DB Cooper. Do you know who that is?
I do know who DB Cooper is. Maybe nice. I am DB Cooper.
Like reincarnated?
Taylor says... I'm not going to read that off. Taylor's funny. Yeah, no, I'm not actually DB Cooper, okay? I just, had to wear some shades today, yeah. Nice. Hopefully no farts in the background today. We always hope that doesn't happen. If you guys saw that part of Summer League, that was hilarious. If you didn't see that part of Summer League, then you're probably like, what the hell is Tori talking about? Summer League was fun, though. Enjoyed those live streams. If you tuned in for those live streams, if you were in chat, if you're watching the Summer League games with us, we greatly appreciate you, because it was fun to react live with the chat. Did it for every single game, including the last one, which was a bit of a travesty because Donovan Clingan didn't play, Reed Sheppard didn't play. It was some ugly basketball. The Blazers won. It was maybe their most convincing win. They almost choked. But still, was not as fun without Clingan. This Summer League was fun because Donovan Clingan, for the first time in I don't know how long, the Blazers drafted a lottery pick, and he didn't get hurt after one game of Summer League. So we actually got to enjoy our lottery pick rookie playing in Summer League, because, of course, we didn't get to enjoy that with Shaden Sharp, nor did we get to enjoy that with Scoot Henderson, as both of them played less than a full game before getting hurt. So, thankfully, Clingan comes out of this thing healthy. Clingan comes out of this thing looking much better in the last game than he did in the first game. Eric, quick little grade and your thoughts, just to kind of sum things up, for Donovan Clingan's Summer League. We've talked about it on previous streams, but just to kind of put a bow on it, what'd you think of him?
I think it was pretty easily a B+-ish performance. The only thing you would have liked to see is him shoot a little better, especially the first few games. His shooting percentage was around 27%, I think, after 3 games. So would like to see that improve a little bit, but I think that's the only real negative thing you could say about his Summer League.
I just took off the sunglasses, and my light back here was so bright on my eyes. Oh my goodness. Luckily, the lights were not too bright for Donovan Clingan. I agree with the grade of B. I would also give him a B. Would have been nice to see him finish a little better in the first couple of games, but as I said, after game 1, when there was a lot of overreaction about him, which I don't know why we do this all the time. One game, people, oh, he looks so slow. He can't finish. He can't shoot. He's a drop big. Blah, 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 blah. People were freaking out after game 1, man, and it just drove me crazy. Drove me crazy. I feel like after game 4, nobody was freaking out because game 4, he looked good. And it was like, as I said after game 1, if he has guards that set him up, he'll look better. And in game 4, his final Summer League game, he got set up a little bit more around the rim. Also got a couple mismatches that he punished. And he looked a little bit better, which you would expect, right? Like, players normally improve a little bit through Summer League, get a feel for it, get a feel for their teammates, etc., especially if they're a guy like Klingon that is reliant upon playing off other guys. Also had a couple threes, that helps, but yeah, defensively he was fantastic. He was the best defender in Summer League. I think I can say that pretty confidently. I don't think that's all that arguable. He smothered shots in the paint. He blocked shots on the perimeter. When he got switched out, he didn't really get cooked, although he didn't get switched out all that much. Defensively, he was freaking phenomenal. He blocked over 4 shots a game. 4.2 blocks per game is what he finished at. Now, how many shots can he block at the NBA level is a different question, but in Summer League, I mean, that's what we were looking for. The elite rim protection that we drafted, and that's exactly what he showed.
Yeah, exactly. I think you saw glimpses of what the Blazers could have been thinking when they were so high on him and coveted him. And I think it's very clear we're going to be running a lot of drop scheme moving forward. Definitely going to have to improve the way we go about getting through screens. But the Blazers had a for sure need with rim protection, and it looks like they addressed that pretty well.
Yeah, speaking of the rest of players, Summer League-wise, we're going to grade them all, at least the ones that matter. We're going to start off. Ryan Rupert played pretty well, had an awful first half of his first game where he had like 4 or 5 turnovers trying to bring the ball up the floor. But he got better at handling pressure. He got better at like actually doing some of the things I was venting about at halftime of game 1. He got the ball stripped because he was like kind of crossing over in front of himself trying to bring the ball up the floor, and shorter, quicker guys were picking his pocket. Did a little better job protecting the ball, bringing the ball up the floor, handling the ball, playmaking, especially in the last game, Game 5. He had a couple impressive passes and had a really bad shooting Game 4, but other than that, the three-point shot looked dialed in, and the form looks good. The form looks smooth. Had some impressive finishes. Some moments where, he got the ball stripped a little bit too much, but overall, I thought this was an impressive Summer League for Ryan Rupert. Did it defensively, pressured guards, got some big steals, just defending guards 94 feet. I would give the Summer League maybe a little higher grade than Klingon, actually. I'd probably give it a B+. What's your grade for Rupert? What were your thoughts?
I don't know if I'm going to go that high. I think I'd give him a B as well, just because he did have some rough shooting and was a little turnover prone in, it was only 5 games, so you got to count some of the bad halves. Yeah, I think overall, though, you can see once again what the Blazers see in him. And I think you can see progress from the beginning of last year, Summer League last year, to this year. And that's all you can really hope for in young players. And you can see, I still not sure. We got asked that question about how likely it'd be for him to be a rotation player in the NBA, and I think we both agreed it was around 40% maybe. So yeah, I could see him being eventually, like, I mean, he gets compared to Nick Batum a lot because he's from the same country, but like I could see him being that type of player. I could also see him just continue to struggle and not really figure it out, but the progression is nice so far, and hopefully it keeps going in that direction. You're muted.
I think overall that fourth game he had kind of weighs him down. Shooting-wise, wasn't necessarily like the best splits, but that fourth game was brutal. Outside of that, I think efficiency-wise, pretty sure he's pretty solid. So, you take the good with the bad. That fourth game, ton of shots in and out. It wasn't like he was missing bad. 6 for 26 from Summer League, 23% is not good. I thought, honestly, he shot a little bit better than that, just looking up these stats, but it was a bad fourth game. Other than that, solid. I mean, he's 20 years old. He's building towards something. He's getting better. I think it was clear, if you compare his play to last Summer League, that he's better a year later. And that's all you're asking for with the guy that you drafted as a raw prospect, a young 19-year-old when he got drafted, 20 years of age, turned 20 in May. You got some runway with Rupert. You got some time to develop him into what hopefully he can become. Unfortunately, you can't say that the same way about the next player that we're going to talk about. And you already know who we're going to talk about. It's the other guy that is on the main roster for the Blazers. Not on a two-way, on a main roster contract, and that is Chris Murray, who in Summer League averaged. They list the stats weird here. I'm gonna have to find points per game. Chris Murray, where was he at?
By the way, chat, give your grades as well. I don't see anyone.
Yeah, give your grades.
Giving those. Come on, guys.
Yeah, give your grades. Chris Murray, 10 points per game, 7 rebounds, shot 34.6% from the field, 25.9% from three. Eric, your grade.
I don't see how it's not a D. He just, his counting stats were okay the last game, and it kind of propped up his overall numbers. I think he had like 19 and 7 or 19 and 9 or something that last game. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't. I just continue to not really be impressed. I've mentioned now with Rupert and Klingon how you can see what the Blazers saw in those prospects, and how it could potentially translate to future success. I still have not seen on the floor, either last year for the Blazers or in either Summer League for Chris Murray, what the Blazers saw in him other than hoping that he would turn out like his brother. And that's just not the case.
Yeah, I mean, that's flawed logic to draft with, number one. Number two, it's, he was supposed to be NBA ready somewhat, and he's not even Summer League ready. He's not even Summer League ready, Eric. 25% from three. Like, he looked like an average Summer League player at best. So, it's a 5-game sample. It's a small sample, but it's just what we saw last year, which is just very poor three-point shooting. Occasionally he can get to the rim, but it's more so like opportunistic straight-line driving or like a slow spin move into the paint. It's not really anything special or unique or like a real asset at the next level. And I just don't think he looked any different. It'll be interesting to see him going into next year because I assume at some point he's going to get an opportunity to play minutes. It's just, when you look at a dude that's 24 that doesn't look any better in his second Summer League than he did in his first Summer League, you have to question, like, really, how much more is he going to improve? Because he has a lot of improvement left to make. The easiest and most realistic path for him to being a guy that can play somewhat and not hurt a team is to figure out the three-point shot, is to become a 35-36% three-point shooter at least. What's funny is coming into the league, it felt like a lot of people kind of assumed that's what he was going to be. Now it seems like that is a far cry from what he is as a shooter right now, which was a guy that shot 26% from three last year, 25% in the Summer League. That's a big jump from what he's been shooting from the NBA three-point line to what he needs to shoot to be impactful. But ultimately, that's the improvement he's going to have to make. Ultimately, this is only a 5-game sample. So next year, will he improve to a 33-34%er? That would feel like a great thing, but it's still not as good as it needs to be. He needs to figure out his shot, maybe tweak some things with his form, the way he shoots the ball, maybe his base as well. He just kind of has a funky little set shot. I don't like it. he has some work to do, man, because I don't think really anything outside of his shooting could be all that good at the NBA level, and the shooting is bad right now. I also give it a D.
I was kind of disappointed that we didn't see him like kind of tweak his form a little bit. It seemed like he was trying to speed it up a little bit, which is good because it did take a while to develop sometimes, and led to him missing out on open shots to becoming contested sometimes. But I was just hoping that he would be doing like whether it's a little narrower base like you mentioned, or just like a different arm position or something. I was hoping he would show something like a little different to maybe give you hope that once he like works on it a little more. But when it's the same form basically, and he continues to shoot poor, is it just like at what point do you just stop hoping that it goes in and just realize that it's just not a good shooter?
Yeah, he has a low release point, low follow through, flat shot, and it doesn't have much flow or smoothness to it. It's a set shot, right? It's not like he flows from his feet up through his release, right? Which the best shooters, Steph Curry, great example, you can see like kind of the energy flow transfer from the ground, right? That's your base up through your release of the ball. He sped up his shot, but it was like him not dipping. It was still a set shot though. It wasn't like he sped up the like set point to release. It was catch the ball, bring it right here to a set point, and then shoot, and it was not smooth. I don't think necessarily it's that he needs to get the shot off faster just by like not dipping the ball and getting it to his set point. He needs to like actually smoothen it out from the base up through his release, and I don't think he showed any signs of that. I don't know if he's capable or not, but when you look at the best shooters, I can't think of really anyone that shoots the ball the way that Chris Murray shoots the ball in terms of like a set shot without much flow or rhythm to his shot whatsoever. So that's what I think he needs to change. That's just my amateur shooting thoughts, you know, my silly YouTuber thinking I know what's best for an NBA player, but Leonard Miller looked pretty dang good, and that's why I was begging them for the Blazers to draft at 23. And he looks a lot better and is a lot younger than Chris Murray right now. So, you know, maybe the YouTuber knows what he's talking about. Regardless, kind of trolling. And on a serious note, do you agree with that, Eric? Is it kind of just like the rhythm, the energy? Do you see what I'm talking about when I'm talking about his rhythm?
Yeah, I feel like I don't know, you can tell he's kind of in his head, and that affects his rhythm a little bit. But yeah, I
You
don't
know
know,
what was the smoothest shot? Was the sidestep he hit
yeah.
in Game 5. That was the smoothest shot from base up through because he sidestepped to his left and just kind of shot it.
Mhm. According to Carlos Avila in chat, you guys need to take it easy on Murray. We'll prove everyone wrong. Give him some time to polish. Maybe
Hoping he'll have a breakout season. Brother, he's 24. Maybe he can become a 36% three-point shooter, but do you really think he looks close to that right now? Because I don't see it with anything else. I wanted him to show me other things, but like he didn't show me anything in Summer League. So if we're going to recap Summer League, if we're going to talk about Chris Murray, we're going to talk about what he showed us, and he didn't show us anything. He did not show us anything in Summer League to give us more hope going into next season. Now, maybe next season, between now and then, he can improve. Maybe he is improving, just didn't really show it well enough in Summer League this year. Of course, that's possible, but it's hard to have hope for that, considering he didn't show us a single thing in Summer League.
Yeah, for me, it always comes back to the 3-point shot with Murray, because he shoots a good amount per time he's in the game. And he does several things okay. Like, it's mentioned in chat, like he's a decent rebounder. He's an okay defender. He's an okay passer. He can sometimes, you know, if he has the right angle or whatever, get to the hoop off a drive. Like he can kind of handle the ball a little bit. And so like he can do all those things, and that's great. But if you cannot hit a 3-point shot, you have to be really freaking good at one or two or three of those things in order for it to work out. And if you're just kind of okay at a bunch of things, that's good if you're also okay at shooting. But if you don't have the shooting to open up those lanes or to attack closeouts and stuff, like, people won't respect you. So I don't see it working out unless all of a sudden he can figure out his 3-point shot. So until he does, I can't have that much hope for him.
I mean, and I think you're being overly nice regarding his ball handling at that. It's he's a very stiff player. He moves stiff. He's a stiff ball handler. Like, yeah, I don't even view that as really even a solid trait at this point. It's more so, yeah, he can, if he has a straight line drive, he can like dribble the ball straight. But I mean, we saw multiple times in the summer league where he got downhill and maybe had a chance to finish, and you can tell he just does not have confidence in his athleticism because he's not athletic. He's a subpar athlete. So, the stiffness, the lack of creation ability, the subpar athleticism, it's really hard to make that work in the NBA if you can't shoot threes. Or you can't shoot a mid-range pull-up, because how often do we even see him try to shoot a mid-range pull-up, Eric? He doesn't really shoot like floaters on the run. If he has an opportunity to shoot a mid-range pull-up or a floater, instead of shooting that, he turns around and turns his back to the basket. Mm-hmm. As a power forward, as a 6'8" power forward who's supposed to be a 3-point shooter, every time he drives and has some space in the mid-range, he then turns his back and like tries to back into the defender. And it's not going to work. It's just simply not going to work. So he has to add more. If he was at least hitting like a mid-range pull-up, or even shooting a mid-range pull-up a little bit more, or shooting floaters a little bit more, just doing something different offensively, even when his 3-point shot wasn't falling, then I could sit here and say, okay, well, you could see what he's working on. You could see what he's trying to get better at because he shot this shot that he didn't shoot last year. I can't even say that about him. So that's where I'm at with Chris Murray, and hopefully the 3-point shot can improve because it has to. If he shoots 26-27% from 3 this year, it would make sense for the Blazers to, I mean, they're going to have to accept his third-year option as soon as possible, but if he shoots in the 20s again this year, it's going to be hard to have faith in him getting a second NBA contract.
Yeah, it's just one team like thinking he's still his brother and just didn't have a chance to do it.
I mean, I don't think any team even thinks like that, though. At least
I know.
It's, yeah, because I mean, or else, Cody Williams probably gets drafted higher. I think he's making it obvious that he's not his brother when he plays.
Yeah. But I mean, maybe a team that has his brother gives him a second contract. Sure. I still think it would probably be best for all parties involved if we found a way to move him to the Kings this offseason.
At most, you're getting a bad second-round pick.
Well, I know, but we take that, right? For someone to just like absorb him.
Yeah, but that's sad because a year ago we spent a first on him.
I know, but
like I know values change and this and that. It's just like, man, that's how bad it's gotten with Chris Murray. Is a year after spending the 23rd pick on him. It wasn't just like it was a 30th, 29th. It was the 23rd pick in the draft. Cam Whitmore got taken 3 picks before that. If only the Knicks could have been a little bit worse, we could be sitting here with Cam Whitmore instead of Chris Murray. A year later, we're talking about, I'll trade him for a second, even if it's not good. I don't disagree with you. I just think that's an indictment on how disappointing he's been.
Yeah, but at the same time, I don't think we want to keep having this conversation, right?
True. I mean, the conversation started when we drafted him. He was a mid-second round prospect.
Yeah.
And we drafted him in the first. Like, that's mistake number 1. And that was on us. That was on us for making that pick. That was a bad pick. That is probably the worst pick in Joe Cronin's tenure. I don't really know what comes close to it. And I would have said that at the time. So, unfortunately, it's played out that way. Because I was hoping to be wrong. I was hoping he would come in, shoot the ball, be like solid and this and that. Just has not panned out that way. Shout out to Braden Tennis with a $5 donation. Says, who will be the Blazers' most improved player this year? I believe Sharp will be a dog this year if he stays healthy. Thank you, Braden. I'm going to answer Scoot Henderson. I think it's clearly going to be Scoot Henderson because of how much he struggled last year, but how hard he works and some of the strides he made late in the season. If he can consistently play like that, maybe even a little better, hopefully, offseason of improvement gets him there, then he's going to look much better, and he's going to be most improved. Eric, what do you think?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think it's clear, but I think it is definitely between him and Sharp. I don't think there's anyone else that's going to enter that conversation. Tamani could improve a lot, but he's still like a role player, so it's not going to be like going from what Scoot did last year to like all-star numbers or something, so it's got to be either Sharp or Scoot. I think I include Sharp because his numbers were actually pretty bad last year in terms of shooting splits, and he missed a ton of games, was inconsistent in some of the time he played. And so I think he does have a gear he can hit. But at the same time, we also saw him hit that gear at the end of his rookie season. We kind of saw Scoot hit that same gear, maybe not quite to the level of Sharp, but maybe for a little bit longer period than Sharp did it. So, it's maybe just going to come down to for those who think he did show some improvement at the end of last year, I think it might not seem like he improved a ton because he was already playing well at the end of last year, but a lot of people, as you know, wrote Scoot off after the first couple months of the season as a bust. And those people would obviously, if Scoot plays really well, would think that he just improved leaps and bounds, right? So it's just kind of how you look at it, I guess.
To gauge Scoot's improvement, it's kind of... Actually, I'll save that for looking ahead. Two-way guys. Mania McGowan's. Mania... Let me look up his stats because I want to actually read off like his shooting numbers. Justin Mania, in 4 games, 47% from 3, 57% from the field on almost 4 attempts per game. I mean, it's a small sample, but the shot looked better, and that's all you can ask for is for him to knock down some shots, right? And he averaged a, let's see, how many 8 points?
I don't think the shot looks bad, like when you're comparing it to Chris's.
No, it's sad. It's wild that I actually like him a little bit more than Chris Murray right now. Mania averaged 8.5 points per game, so it wasn't doing a lot of scoring, but he's hustle guy defender, like plays solid defense, and if he can knock down threes, then that's something. Probably end of a roster at best, but like you need hustle guys that can play some defense and knock down threes in the league. And the thing is his 3-point shot, like offensive game, he's just complete non-factor whenever he played last year. But in summer league, it looked like maybe his shot's getting better, and that's all you can hope for is, hey, if he can start hitting the 3 ball a little bit better, then is he a 3-and-D guy? Then that might be something. So I give him I don't know how he could have played much better, so I'll just straight up give him an A minus. A minus.
Yeah.
A would have been, I don't know, like higher scoring volume.
Yeah. Well, before I answer that, Michael's son, thanks for the nice comment about us. Appreciate it. But I agree with G. Walker. Is it just me, or does Mania look 6'3" out there? He definitely looks short out there. So like I kind of split it up into 2 things. One, I still don't really like having our 2-ways used on mid-20-year-olds, like 25-year-old Justin Mania. And so from that perspective, like I still am not a fan of that over what other teams are doing, taking an undrafted free agent or an undrafted player and taking a chance on them, or trying to groom someone that's a little younger with those two ways, because Manaya's like, I don't know, he's just like a plug and play basic role player, like he's fine. It's just not he doesn't have any upside. And so like I give him a B as well. I give him the same grade as like Klingon and Repair because um he did about as well as a role player can do, but like I still like he was shooting well. Like I would have liked to seen him maybe try to create a little more, try to score a little more. Um, just do a little bit more if he's playing well like that. But at the same time, it seemed like they didn't really need to see much from him. I don't think he really played heavy minutes in summer league any of the games. So um, I don't know. I think he did. He surprised me. He played really well. But I'm still just kind of mad on him overall moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, there's the grade based on expectations, and that's
Yeah.
where I was at with him. I didn't expect him to shoot the ball as well, but who knows if it's real or not. And then Bryce McGowan's. Let me find his stats. I'm in all the M names right now. I just had it. Where? Okay, hold on. McGowan's. There we go. Averaged 16 points per game in 20 minutes, Eric. But on 11 and a half attempts in those 20 minutes, shooting 39% from the field and 29% from three. He did get to the line a ton. 6.3 free throw attempts per game in those 20 minutes per game is kind of absurd.
Yeah.
But averaged
I mean, that helps.
1.3 assists per game and 1.8 turnovers. He's a chucker. Anyway, you were saying?
Yeah. So I was really happy when we signed McGowan's for a two-way after the Hornets cut him. But to me, he's too duplicative of a player we already have on the roster. And by the way, Jabari Walker and Tamani Kamara's deadline to cut them both passed, and we cut both of them. So they're officially guaranteed contracts for this year. We picked up the partial guarantee on Delano Banton's contract already. So it's a guy that we already have on this team. And I was very clear about this if you watched us during the games. I know Bryce McGowan's can score. Like I know he can he can shoot 11 times a game, like you said, and put up some numbers. That's not what I'm looking for with players like that in Summer League, and that's not what I was looking for with Delano Banton at the end of last season. I was looking for them to show me something that they haven't shown in the past, because there's 100 of those guys, fringe roster type players, that if you gave them 11 shots a game can put up some interesting scoring numbers. But if you don't have the defense that goes along with that, if you don't have passing, if you're just kind of a shot chucker and high volume scorer, it doesn't necessarily provide a ton of value to your team. So I was kind of disappointed that McGowan just came out here and tried to wow everyone by shooting a bunch and not really do much else, because I really wanted to see if he had anything else to his game, and I was kind of disappointed that he didn't.
Yep, agree. C- for him. And that's basically everybody that matters. Alex Reese was terrible. The guards were terrible except for Kennedy Chandler. He was okay. Terquavion Smith was awful. Kendrick Davis started off starting and then got benched, it seemed like. So, yeah, brutal for him. Kennedy Chandler's stats, if anyone was curious. Shot 52% from the field, but only 20% from three. Only shot one a game. Doesn't really shoot threes, but averaged 13 points per game in 24 minutes. If he could hit threes, he could be on a two-way, I think. He averaged 5.8 rebounds per game. Got got 2.2 offensive rebounds per game. Magic number there. He was the only guard I could really stand, to be honest. The other guards, absolutely disgusting stuff.
Yeah, Turk Smith was disappointing.
Wildly disappointing. Anyway, moving on. I just wanted to talk about some of like the top free agents left on the market because, Eric, there is a lot of decent free agents that normally at this point in time aren't still on the market, and I think this is due to the new CBA. Making it tougher for teams to spend a taxpayer mid-level exception. Some teams just can't even offer a taxpayer mid-level exception. If they could, Tyus Jones would probably be in Phoenix already. Tyus Jones is still available. I think he's the best free agent available. Luke Kennard is available. I'm just going off Real GM's available free agent list. Spencer Dinwiddie signed today, minimum, with the Dallas Mavericks. So he's bouncing back and forth between the Mavs and the Nets and the Lakers. Because I believe he's had 2 stints with the Lakers, 2 stints with the Nets, and this is going to be a second stint with the Mavericks. So they're just passing him around. Taylor Horton-Tucker is still available, although I believe he's restricted, right?
No, he's not.
He's been in the league for 5 years already, and he's only 23. Crazy.
Yeah.
So he's unrestricted. He's still available. Gordon Hayward, Lonnie Walker are still available. Isaac Okoro is a restricted free agent. He's still on the market.
He's the only one, the only restricted left.
Yep. Markelle Fultz is still out there. Lamar Stevens, Landry Shamet, Evan Fournier, Shetty Osman, Davis Bertans. Some of these names, maybe guys that go play overseas, like they're fringe. But, you got some big-name vets still out there. Marcus Morris, Jay Crowder type guys. Danilo Gallinari might be on his way out of the league. He's a big-name veteran. Doug McDermott's still available. I mean, that's a small forward that can light it up from 3. At least these are the names according to Real GM, because it also says that Drew Eubanks is available, but he signed with Utah. So a lot of big names still available.
Sasha Vezenkov got bought out today, but he's going to go back and play in Greece, I believe.
Yeah, he tried the NBA, didn't like it, didn't get enough of an opportunity.
He gave up his full salary, too.
Yeah, wild.
In the buyout.
Wild stuff.
Over $6 million, yeah.
Robert Covington is still available, Eric.
Yeah. I mean, he had a rough season, but I'm still surprised the team wouldn't give him a minimum.
Yeah, just take a flyer on a dude that can play some defense.
With some of these guys, too, I think the problem is they're not willing to accept a minimum, and that's all that's being offered. And,
Tyus Jones is too good for a minimum, but the market might dictate that he has to take one. Which is wild to me.
Yeah. See,
if I'm Phoenix, I'm like begging him to come there on a minimum.
Yeah.
And start.
I mean, that would be insane.
That would be absolutely insane. I mean, they would have like the best possible offseason, I think, if they could do that.
If you're the Washington Wizards, why not just sign him to a decent contract and then trade him when he's eligible to trade it?
You got Malcolm Brogdon and Bub Carrington.
I mean, they need to trade Brogdon too. But...
I guess Brogdon can play off the ball, but Jordan Poole, it's kind of just a weird roster construction to bring Tyus Jones back into. Because I feel like they just want to start Bub from the get-go. I mean, he had some good moments in Summer League, so.
And so they're going to start Jordan Poole over him.
Disgusting. Big name free agents left. I mean, who do you like the most on that list for a contending team, maybe other than Tyus Jones? I think Taylor Horton-Tucker could maybe play a role on a good team.
Yeah. Well, we saw like guys like Jay Crowder and Robert Covington really struggle last year. But those are guys that, on a minimum, you would think would be able to help a team, just add some depth maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. Fultz is so weird. I think he's had some flashes in Orlando. It looked like heading into last season that was going to be a guy who really took off, and then by the end of the season, he wasn't even really in their rotation anymore. I don't know if he's hurt again or what, but he wasn't really playing much anymore. So yeah, I don't really know what to think of him, but I mean, if you can get him for cheap, I don't think that's like a bad flyer to take on someone.
Yep. Agreed. We'll see where some of those names land. You still got some signings left to happen, despite it being July 22nd. We gave Summer League grades on players for Summer League, but with it being late July, Eric, let's just assume that the Blazers' offseason is over. In that case, what is your offseason grade for the Blazers? Chat, also feel free to chime in the chat. Eric, what's your grade?
I have 9 days to win my bet with Kyle Neely on Anthony Simons not being traded by August 1st. But this is another tough one because I'm really torn between they made two really good moves, brought in two really good players that are definitely going to factor into their core moving forward. So you have to give them credit for that in Denny Avdia and Donovan Clingan. But I'm still massively disappointed in the fact that a rebuilding team went into a draft with 4 draft picks, only kept 1, and basically only like with two of them just like kind of gave them away or whatever instead of taking a flyer on someone. And then also the fact that we have so many issues in my mind in terms of guys like Thibault and Grant and players like that our center situation right now with Clingan, that there's just a logjam of players that I don't think I want to see play on a rebuilding team that need to be traded still. But I also kind of understand why they haven't been traded. So all that to say, I think it's, in my mind, like B minus, C plus. B minus because I think the 2 players they brought in were excellent moves. C plus because I think there's still some work to be done, and I'm not confident that Joe's able to do it.
I'm sorry. I just think C plus is kind of wild. Just too low, because ultimately, like, other than the second round picks, this could be the best possible job that Joe Cronin could have done. Like, who knows what he's getting for Jeremy Grant? Who knows what he's getting for DeAndre Ayton, right? And if he's not getting enough, like, what is he supposed to do? If he went and traded Jeremy Grant for, like, 1 bad first, we would probably roast him for it and hurt his grade because of it. You know what I mean? So if that's what he's getting offered, like, it's tough for me to go that low, given that the Avdia trade was good and the Clingan pick was just fine. It was something where, like, they identified a player that I feel like maybe me and you both slept on a little bit too much, like, not to get ahead of ourselves with Summer League, but I liked what I saw. So ultimately, like, the only thing that I was for sure he controlled was, like, maybe the second round picks, but also maybe Jody was like, just give me cash for 40. I don't know. Regardless, sure, I can hold the second round picks against him a little bit, but with it being second round picks, it's really tough for me to, like, actually bake that into the grade too much. I, at this point, give it a B+. If his offers for all the veterans are just complete, utter crap, then I give him an A-. Because ultimately, he does have to play hardball in regards to these vets. He does have to, he does have to get something back for some of these guys.
But I can't see, in my mind, I can't let him off the hook for matching Thibault and having him still be on the team and then not getting good offers.
But that was last offseason.
No, I know, but it's impacting this offseason. Like he
so
didn't
great and
trade
bad
him.
last offseason.
No, but I'm saying, like, Grant, like, yeah, you're not getting good offers, but if he would have traded Grant and Thibault at the deadline and then made these moves he made this summer, it might be like an A++, right? Like,
I don't know.
So
we'd never give him an A++.
but that's what I'm saying. Like, he's put himself in a position to where now he's having to try to leverage value of players that might have had value had you even explored shopping them at the trade deadline. And so in my mind, I can't necessarily let him off the hook for not being able to trade someone because he's put himself in the position to where they might not have the best value right now.
Yeah, I think ultimately the process leading up to this offseason is, like, if we're just analyzing it in a vacuum, is different, right? Because hindsight, yes, he was not able to trade Thibault. Ultimately, if they don't play Thibault, does it really hurt to have him back on the roster? Like, yes, they could have more flexibility, but who knows what the exact opportunity cost was? Maybe a couple of seconds. But then we trade 34 in a weaker draft for 3 seconds, and that's a really bad thing, right? So it's like, I don't really see the consistency, I guess, in regards to, like, docking it too much for Thibault, because ultimately, like, it's weird if he plays how the minutes shake out. But if they don't play him, yes, he's sitting there. I mean, it's what? Is it a team option year 3? Or is it a player option? Ultimately, they might be stuck with that contract. I
don't think it's a team option. I think
that's not something they should have matched last year, and I was the leader of that bandwagon. They should have never matched that contract last summer. I actually think that made the grade last summer a little bit worse for the reasons that you stated. But if you just look at it in terms of, like, the position that they were in going into this offseason, just grading, okay, point A to point B, with point A being the start of this offseason, I got to give them a positive grade.
Yeah, it's a player option.
Yeah. I mean, that contract should not be on the books. Plain, simple, right? But it's not like we had to give away assets to dump somebody. It's not like we overpaid for somebody. We acquired 2 players that factor in as probably starters long-term that play defense, play smart, good culture guys, et cetera, right? Like the type of guys that I was begging for. I gotta give him a positive grade for that. Like, I don't think Thibault in second-round picks outweighs the acquisition of Denny Avdia and drafting Donovan Clingan.
B- is a positive grade, by the way.
If you're a C student, chat, is B- a positive?
C is average, so anything above a C is positive.
Is C average? The average student is a 2.0 GPA?
C is literally average. Yeah, it's in the middle.
It's average if you take it's if you average A and F, but if you're talking about average, okay, what's the average GPA in America?
Well, nowadays
that's the average grade. Because Eric, no,
it's not even a debatable thing. It's
no. C. I used to approach it like that when I would grade guys, because I do the videos like the player reviews grading players like C. So many people took that like a negative.
Well, I know people take it as a negative. That's different.
Because normally, like, C's are not good if you're a student. They're it's not like okay to get C's if you're a student.
Well, I mean, technically in college, like, or whatever, like, you just have to pass your classes. It doesn't really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah.
True. But I don't know. I think.
So what do you think average is then?
I think like B- is average.
Like, it's literally set up like this isn't like debatable. It's a fact. A is good, B is above average, C is average, D is below average, F is bad. Like, that's literally how the grade system is supposed to work.
Yeah, ultimately I think it's a little skewed towards the positive. I don't know. This is a silly debate. Ultimately, ultimately, I got to give him a... Okay, here, I'll say this. I'll say it like this. I have to give him a clearly positive grade.
Okay.
A clearly positive. I can't get close to C.
All right, that's fair.
Yeah. JP says, I understand what Tori means. Good. As long as one person understands me, I'm okay.
I do understand. Like, and that's why I think it's silly. Like, you see this every year with, like, draft grades, right? And, like, especially in the NFL, it's like the worst grade someone gives is like a C. It's like, what the heck? Like, how can the worst grade be a C, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I view it as like B is solid and C is like, that's not that good.
Mm-hmm.
Is how I view it.
Yeah.
So like B minus C plus is like between it's not that good and solid.
Mm-hmm.
I will say I did change a little bit how I view grading anything, right? Because ultimately all these grades is just like a topic point, a point of conversation.
Well, yeah.
It would obviously be clearly better to sit here like, do you think it was a good off season? Do you think it was a productive off season? Like, what adjectives would you use to describe this off season, right? Like, I sound like a freaking therapist right now. I kind of look like a therapist right now, right? Mm-hmm. That obviously would be the clearer way to explain it, but...
Well, see, what the funniest, like, thing I can say about this is the word mid, right?
Yeah.
Mid is definitely, is like, it's supposed to mean mid, like middle, like average, like that's supposed to be, like, normal, like, I don't know, but like mid is like a bad thing, right? It's like,
yeah, because average is not good.
No, I know. Okay, yeah, agreed, and that's why I graded it slightly above average.
Yeah. Would you say it was a good offseason?
Yeah, I think it's good so far. I think we added 2 core pieces. Both of which for the next 4 years are under great contracts, and should help us do well. Yeah.
People like the hair. I love it. Thank you. Here's the best way to end this conversation. Before this offseason, if you were told this is what the offseason will be, I'm typing this as a chat poll. That's why I'm talking so freaking slow. Would you have taken it? So before this offseason, if you were told they're going to draft Donovan Clingan, they're going to make that trade for Denny Avdia, they're going to trade 34 for 3 future seconds, and they're going to trade 40 for cash, and that's all they're going to do, would you have taken it before the offseason? Chat, feel free to answer in the poll. Eric, would you have taken it?
I don't know, because I was before summer league even, or I guess before we drafted Klingon, I wasn't super high on him, so I would have been, I think, kind of disappointed if we came out of the draft with just Klingon at 7, but I would have been happy we traded for Avdia. Huh?
I mean, you came out. I kind of view it as like they came out of the draft with Denny too.
Yeah, but I'm saying, like, if we kept 7 and that was who we got, Donovan, I am happy that we didn't use assets to move up to get him. Yeah.
So what's the answer?
I would take it, yes. No, because of Cronin and how I feel like it could have been much worse. So yes, you absolutely have to take this offseason, right? Yes. I think that's ultimately the answer.
It's just so funny because I'm like, can I get a fully positive answer out of Eric? Yes, I would have taken this offseason because Cronin sucks. And you know what? I don't disagree at all. So I also would have taken this offseason because the expectations were not high. It's just funny to look at it that way. 83% of people said yes. I mean, again, a guy like Denny, man, I feel like with focusing on Klingon and Summer League and like trying to trade the other vets, oh, we got Denny, okay. Like, I feel like we're forgetting how good Denny was last year and forgetting like how good of a trade that was. Not fully, but like you can make a case that he's like a very, very good starter in the league at 23. And he's a type of player that ultimately is really hard to get and really hard to find and has a combination of traits that are really hard to find and works hard. Like good teammate by all accounts. So that carries the offseason. That just simply carries the entire offseason, that trade.
Yeah. We also got nothing for Malcolm Brown for the salary.
Well, we knew that. We had a
Did
feeling.
we though? No, we were told that we was gonna.
We were told, but what were we saying? You know, because normally it's a little different what we're saying and what people argue with us on.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, I don't know. Our track record is pretty good when we are, I don't know. I don't want to say the word negative. I felt like the conversations about Malcolm were more realistic because, like, he doesn't have a ton of value. But ultimately, like, Washington didn't value him. Ultimately, maybe they can flip him. Maybe they valued him a little bit. Regardless, trade's still good. So looking ahead, final conversation point, and then we're out of here. 84% of chat, by the way, would have taken that off season. Looking ahead, there's a conversation that I said I was going to save, and it was going to be like how we gauge Scoot's success. And I forgot exactly what I was going to say about it. Funny how that happens, Eric. What's kind of like your benchmark for success with Scoot? Like, what are some of the things you're looking for at the start of the season to like kind of gauge whether he's improved since the end of last season? Because he played well at the end of last season, but like, what's the gauge? And I just remembered what I was going to say. I'll give you my answer after you give yours.
Well, for me, it's more. I want to see less of the clunkiness, like the ball handling tightening up. I want the really bad turnovers to get cut down a little bit. I want to see him use that great vision a little bit more often. I want to see him kind of show some different ways of finishing around the hoop instead of just like chucking the ball off the backboard like he did a lot. really too strong, like using too much power, not enough like finesse and spin on the balls and stuff like that. So it's more just I just want to see him kind of settle down a little bit and become just a little bit more solid of a point guard overall. I'm not as concerned with like, oh, he needs to average this many points or assists or whatever. Like I've never really been a person who cares a lot about how many points Scoot averages. But I do want to see him just become a little more efficient. There were points of last season he did a good job of getting to the free throw line, and then parts where he didn't. So I'd like to see him lean into that maybe a little bit more instead of avoiding contact, maybe getting to the line a little bit more.
Yeah.
He shot the free throws a little bit better. So yeah, it's not necessarily.
I mean, there's a million things he could
stuff,
improve
but
on.
Yeah. But it's more just like seeing him be a little bit more smoother out there than clunky in my mind.
I'm going to boil it down to something simpler. Okay. And like all that stuff pours into this. Last year when he was on the floor, the team was noticeably worse. And that was backed up statistically. I'm looking for the team to not be noticeably worse with him on the floor.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the team should be just as good, at least, with him on the floor as him off the floor. Because last year it was like, you play him and you could easily say, like, he's having a negative impact. Like, clearly having a negative impact. Statistically having a negative impact. Even when he was, like, playing well, there was still, like, some games where it was like, man, is the team actually better with him on the floor? So ultimately, like, when he's actually playing good, I want to see the team actually, like, be better because of it. I want to don't want to see a drop off when he's on the floor. And that's kind of how I'm going to gauge whether he's better. Obviously, we're going to gauge it in analyzing every little intricate part of his game. But the simplest way to do it, I think, is just his impact on the floor in general. And statistically, on-off splits, that sort of stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good way to look at it. I didn't mention this part, but I don't want to see him being lackadaisical on defense anymore, too. I want to see him really take ownership of his defense and really show me that he wants to be a good defender, because I did not see that at all last season. So that's another, and I think that goes hand in hand with like winning basketball as well. And if he is doing that, I think it'll show up in those stats you mentioned.
Yep, 100%. Shaden Sharp, I just want him to be more consistently good. Pretty simple. Like, last year he had some brilliant flashes and some really bad slumps. And it was just, 1 week he'd be phenomenal, 1 week he'd be awful. So even if maybe the flashes aren't like as insane, just give me consistency. Like, just give me consistent impact, consistent scoring, consistent shooting, and actually like show us what you are on a week in, week out basis. Some of it was maybe some injuries and stuff he was dealing with out of his control, so this isn't necessarily blaming him. Part of it is, okay, he needs to stay healthy to be able to be consistent, right? He needs to be able to play 35 minutes a game, potentially, if there's some injuries. Not 42, right? So, like, there's a lot that goes into maybe his consistency. Regardless, I just want to see consistency out of him. Just because rookie year, he had that flash late in the season, but it wasn't like a huge sample size. It was a great flash, don't get me wrong, but it was tanking team, not huge sample size. Year 2 is very up and down. Year 3, if he can like consistently be good, that's a great sign.
Yeah, I hope they don't goof around like they did last year. And so he's got to earn it, of course. But if they're starting like Thibault over him, again this season, like that didn't make sense to me last year.
I don't think there's any way they would do that. I think it's kind of like that's not even a discussion for them at this point. So,
and maybe they use the injury thing as a reason if they don't start the 3 guards for him to come off the bench to like work back into it at first. I sure hope that's not the case. I just want. I think the same thing about Scoot. I don't want there to be any sort of like holding them back, or at least just let them get on the court, play their minutes, and see what they can do out there, and play to their strengths. Like try to develop offense that works for all these guys. And I just want to see them ball, man. And it just like I feel like they haven't been like they've been kind of limited the last couple of years on what they're supposed to do when they go in the game and what they can show and stuff like that. And then you see like just some random tanking games at the end of the season for both Scoot and Sharp, and you see like, wow, look how good they can be if they just play, you know. So for me, it's just I just want to see him on the court, like being Shaden Sharp, you know.
How they function in like the team concept is going to be interesting with adding Avdia. That's kind of like a different conversation, I think, is what changes are made to the offense, if any, now that you got Avdia. Like, how do you integrate him and improve the style of the offense? Because the offense was terrible last year. Like, will the assistant coaches change the way the offense is ran, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? That's kind of a longer conversation. The shorter conversation is, like, he'll play. If he doesn't start, though, it's not going to be because of Thibault, because ultimately 2 of Simon, Scoot, Sharp, Avdia, Grant, and Kamara are going to have to come off the bench.
Mm-hmm.
2 of those guys will come off the bench. So if Sharp's coming off the bench, it's not because he's behind Thibault. It'll be because he's behind, like, Scoot and Ant. Or it's because he's behind Avdia, which is much more palatable to me than what they were doing last year, where they started Thibault ahead of him. So, like, starting lineup-wise, it's going to be a conversation in terms of, like, who do they bring off the bench, but it's not really going to be like they better not do this, because ultimately, like, going into next season, they're put in a position where they're going to have to take 2 of those guys off the bench. Those are going to be 2 really good players off the bench, but they're not trying to win games, so the conversation is going to be, okay, are these log jams hurting the development? Not necessarily like, why the hell is Chauncey starting Thibault over Sharp?
Yeah. And one more thing with Sharp, I do think, so one of the things where he blossomed at the end of his rookie season was when he basically became the de facto point guard and was handling a majority of the pick and roll duties and all that kind of stuff on offense. And he really shined in that. But obviously with Scoot and Anthony and even Grant and stuff like that, you're not going to get as many opportunities on the ball as he probably would benefit from. So he's got to find a way to still be impactful, whether that's by shooting the 3 well, whether that's by cutting and becoming a lob threat for Scoot and Anthony to get easy assists to. We have to find a way to maximize these players together if they're all going to be on the same team still. So he's got to find a way to fit in and still impact the game he was in the ways he was doing with the ball. Because like you mentioned, you add Denny into that mix. Denny's another guy who plays best with the ball, according to his career so far. So this is something where we now have multiple guys who all kind of seem to do better with the ball as opposed to being off ball. And I think someone's need to step up and prove that they can do both well.
Yeah. I think I'm starting to look at this a bit differently than you. I'm starting to look at this in terms of, like, what do our young players need to learn how to do? They need to learn how to execute sets better, and then if they're not in sets, they need to learn how to play and flow better, right? And that's with and without the ball. Like, because if you're going to flow, a lot of it is not sitting there, like, dribbling the ball, setting up a pick and roll, or isolating. A lot of it is catch the ball, you're playing off the ball, you get a pass, you maybe attack a closeout, make the next pass, move on the ball. Or you catch the ball, don't have an opportunity to attack, don't have a shot, and you immediately swing at it. Or making the extra pass, or cutting, or setting off-ball screens, yada, yada, yada. That's in flow. In sets, it's executing what you're supposed to do, right? And ultimately, it's like he's going to have sets where it's like not necessarily his number to be called, but maybe he can make a play out of it, but he has to be patient and pick his spots where he can't be too aggressive. Whereas if they're tanking and he's the only guy, he probably isn't actually, like, picking his spots in set actions properly because it's who's he playing next to? A bunch of scrubs, so he's just going to catch the ball and do something. So that's kind of how I'm viewing, like, okay, maybe it's not a bad thing that you got all these guys that can do something, because having guys that can pass, having guys that are willing to cut, maybe set screens off the ball, Avdia, Klingon, hopefully they're guys like that, and new assistant coaches will hopefully teach these players how to play better off the ball in general, but more, like, detailed-wise, just play and flow, do things like cut more, screen away, etc., and then execute sets, because I don't think this team is all that good at executing sets, especially the young players. So that's where it's like, I don't view it as like, oh, a bunch of guys that need the ball in their hands to be effective. It's more so like, these guys have got to learn how to actually play offense in general, because they got some talent, but they're still very young. And then on top of that, they got to run more, which they haven't done. They didn't do last year. They didn't do the year before in Sharp's case. So maybe having more ball handlers, they'll run a little bit more. Those guys can definitely fill lanes without the ball. So I'm not viewing that as necessarily a problem. I view it more in the lens of, if they're playing a bunch of iso ball, it's a problem in general. And if they're playing a lot of iso ball, it's probably Sharp and Scoot just standing in the corner watching Jeremy Grant, watching Anthony Simons dribble the hell out of the ball like it was last year, which is not going to develop them at all. But if you got the ball in Ant's or Grant's hands and they're, in some sort of flow or some sort of action, I don't think that's a bad thing for the development of the young players, even though they don't have the ball in their hands.
All right, let me say I agree with all of that. The reason why I don't necessarily think that way from that mindset is that Chauncey Billups is still our coach, and I have no faith in him coaching a team that does those things.
Yeah, that's a Chauncey problem. That's not necessarily like a...
Right, yeah, so that's my thing. Like, if we were talking about a new coach this year, we're like, oh, wow, we're going to run
We do have new assistants.
Like I don't know if you heard that interview with JJ Redick during Summer League, but he was like, I broke down the numbers, and this team was much better running sets than out of freelance. And so we're going to run a lot of set plays and all that kind of stuff. And so I like that. I would be like psyched, right? Like I would be so pumped right now if I heard my coach say that, right? Now maybe it doesn't translate to the floor like we saw with Chauncey saying all those things when he first came to Portland, but I I gotta hope that the new assistants, maybe like one of them was supposed to be an X's and O's guy. We know Bjorkgren has been, a lead assistant for Toronto and stuff like that, where he has fairly high reputation as an assistant. So maybe these guys won't be like the S-men like some of our coaches have been in the previous years, or like Chauncey's brother on the staff, but like, so that's my hope. But then I'm like, well, are we really going to run more? Even though we both know we need to run more. Are we actually going to do it this year? If we do, I'll be happy. But like, I don't know if that's necessarily the players' fault if we don't,
Yeah. Anyway, I think that's going to wrap up the stream. Thank you guys for hanging out with us. We should have more time on Thursday to maybe answer questions if you guys have them. But upcoming schedule is pretty simple. Monday, Thursday, like normal. Going live. Thursdays we'll go live a little bit later. 9 to 9:30, maybe 10. Both me and Eric play basketball on Thursdays, so schedule then is a little iffy, but I'm currently building video content for August. Hopefully there's like a consistent feed of videos for August. That's what I'm working towards, so stay tuned for that. Still want to do some film breakdowns. Want to kind of recap Klingon Summer League. Ultimately, I may just need to like kind of chill, for a little bit after all the streams and the off season and stuff. So just trying to get stuff ready for August. Anything else for the stream, Eric?
No, just appreciate everyone for tuning in, and hope you all have a good night. Hope to see you Thursday. And if you're watching this video later, comment below what you think about our grades and what grades you would give on all the things we talked about.
Yep, 100%. Appreciate your comments. Appreciate your live chats. Thank you for watching this episode of Blazers Uprise Live. We'll be back on Thursday. Hit the like button on the way out of here. We greatly appreciate that. Easiest way to support the channel. Shout out to... Did we thank Braden Tennis's last donation before we end the stream, Eric?
Which one?
What do y'all want to see out of Denny this year? Thank you, Braden, for your donations today. Sorry we missed the last one. We've been on a bit of a tangent there. Before we wrap up the stream, I'll answer your question. Denny, just continue to shoot the three ball well is what I want to see. Hopefully last year was the sign of him becoming a better shooter, and then be that point of attack forward stopper that we need. And then, I want to see him continue to build upon his point forward skills that he showed last year for Washington. That's what I hope. That's what I expect him to do. It's kind of hard to say expectations, though, without seeing how Chauncey integrates him into whatever our offense is this year.
Yeah, I agree with all that. Showcase the passing ability. Help out our defense with that good perimeter defense. And just hopefully that 37% three-point shooting is the norm and not an outlier.
Yep. Anyway, we're out of here. Thank you guys for watching us. Have a good rest of your Monday night. Look forward to talking to you again on Thursday. With that being said, we're out of here. Until next time, as always, peace out. Go Blazers.